let's have the conversation. No, it's not too soon. No, I'm not being a prisoner of the moment. No, this is not recency bias. I genuinely believe that women's 400 meter hurdles, that women's 400 meters that we just saw at the World Championships in Tokyo in 2025 has a legitimate case to be the greatest race we've ever seen overall, all things considered, in terms of what just happened on the track. Let's start at the top and work down. Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone, 47.78, second fastest woman of all time. Her race from start to finish was flawless. We knew something big was coming after that 48.2 that she ran in the semis, but to be able to execute that race perfectly under that pressure, in the rain, after dropping the time like that and knowing that everyone's talking about world record, myself included. I've obviously been speaking about it for months, and at the time, people weren't trying to hear it. People didn't even think 47 was possible. People even thought low 48 was unlikely when I was talking about it months ago. Now, after dropping a 48.2 in the semis, all the talk is the world record going to go? Is the world record going to go? A world record that a lot of people want to go because of the era that it came in the 80s, which is an interesting take, which I might get into later. But either way, right? Now, with all of that pressure on her, in the rain, now I'm not going to act like this was some Lausanne rain, the one that Oblique dropped to 9.87 in. And we did have fast times. Noah Lyles ran a 19.5 in that same rain. The men's 400, which I'm going to make a video about as well, was won in 43.5 in that same rain. And everyone in this field ran ridiculously fast. So it's not as though the rain made everyone slower, but you could argue that the times could be quicker without rain if the conditions were perfect. But can you say a world record would have gone for sure? I don't think you can say that. I don't think there's enough evidence, I guess, to say that it would have gone for sure without rain. But regardless, the fact that she was able to execute that in those conditions, under that pressure, from someone like Marileidy Paulino, there was a genuine point. There was a genuine point with about 20 to go where I was like, Sydney might not win. Obviously, she was my pick, and I thought she was going to run 47, all these different kind of things. I'm not talking about before. I'm talking about in the race itself, towards the end. I was like, Sydney might not win. Paulino somehow finished. It looked as though she was finishing stronger. I've watched the race back like 5 times already. I need to watch it back even more. But the strength that she was finishing with, despite having ran that fast the whole way round, and mind you, Paulino's body is not used to doing that. We should have expected this from her, as I said months ago in a video where in her interview, she said she knows that to run 47, which is what she was aiming for, before Sydney even, like, we knew for a fact that she was going to do something like this. Paulino said she has to run the first half of her race quicker. It's a fact. And she knew it. But we didn't see it from her throughout the season. All we saw from her throughout the season was she runs it a bit conservatively. Naser obviously comes like a bullet out, and Paulino reels her in towards the end. That was the strategy that Paulino had basically all season, and it worked for her all but 2 times. I think one at Grand Slam track, if I'm not mistaken, when Naser dropped like a 48.6. I believe Paulino was in that race. And then at the Diamond League final, when Paulino, who was fresh off of executing that strategy maybe a week before in the Diamond League or 2 weeks before, tried the same strategy on Naser and ran a similar time. She ran a 49.2 low, where the previous one she ran like a 49.1 mid. But Naser just kept going and ran like a 48.7. So we didn't see Paulino really try and come out. It was almost as if she was saving it for a moment like this so that no one knew what to expect. She knew she has to run that first part of the race quicker. But when watching, the commentator was saying, oh, has Paulino gone out too hard? Because commentator knew she doesn't normally do this. And one thing I did say in the previous video was that if one of them, whether it's Naser or Paulino, differs too much from their race strategy and tries to come out so hard because they now know what Sydney's going to do after dropping a 48 low in the heats, because they now know that if they come out too hard, it could backfire. It could. wasn't guaranteeing it, but I was saying it could backfire. So the fact that Paulino was able to come out way faster, I haven't got the splits yet, but way faster than she did even last year in Paris, or that I've ever seen her do before. And still, towards the end of the race, look like she's reeling in Sydney, who's running the second fastest time that we've ever seen. I was so impressed. I was so impressed by Marileidy Paulino because she went for it. She didn't just see that 48.2 that Sydney ran, and same with Naser, we'll get onto her. She didn't just see that and think, all right, cool, game's done. I can't reach that. She was like, nah. Like, she was on the outside lane. Marileidy Paulino was on the outside lane. And you could argue it helped her because she knew she was going to have to run fast and she wasn't pacing herself relative to anyone else because she couldn't see anyone else. And that just makes you think, when everyone was panicking about the fact that she finished second in her semi, she might have done that on purpose, you know. She might have done that on purpose so that she could get that outside lane draw. I don't know, but we've seen it. We saw Wade van Niekerk's world record was from the outside lane. And sometimes just going all out, not pacing yourself relative to what anyone else is doing, particularly when you've got two athletes like Naser and McLaughlin-Levrone in the race, sometimes that's what's best. And she nearly pulled it off. She nearly did. I'm telling you, for a second, because obviously I don't really have bias in terms of who I want to win. I want my predictions to be right, but I just love track. I just wanted to see a great race. And sometimes my predictions is even against athletes that I want to win. But for a second, my heart dropped. I was like, is Paulino actually going to reel in McLaughlin-Levrone? And Sydney held on. The concept of someone holding on, running the second fastest time ever, running a 47.7 and just holding on to winning the race is insane. So shout out to Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone, shout out to Marileidy Paulino, and Salwa Eid Naser. Salwa Eid Naser dropped a 48.19 and went down on the all-time list. Explain that to me. How can you see something like that and think this wasn't arguably the greatest race that we've ever seen? She ran a 48.19 and went down on the all-time list. She's now fourth all-time. So those runners that we just saw, second, third, and fourth all-time. And you can't really fault her. She ran the best race she could. She ran the best race she could. And it's the fastest she's run, significantly the fastest she's run since, in like 6 years, which was when she ran that 48.1 in Doha against Shawnee Miller-Rebo. So being able to execute that and running her own race, as I said, not being too distracted by the fact like, oh, I need to catch Sydney or I need to be far ahead so that Paulino can't reel me in. Running her own race and running a time like that, again, in those conditions, it's unreal. It's unreal what we're seeing from these three women. I never thought I'd be living in a world where we had Natalia Bukowiecka in fourth, 49.27. Amber Annin, massive shout out Amber Annin. So happy for you, so proud for you. 49.36, I believe. 49.36 in fifth place. Back in the day, me and Amber used to always debate, about track, who our favorite athletes were, who we thought was gonna win and all of that. This is like, what? Mid to late 2010s. And we debate between Alison Felix and Shawnee Miller-Rebo, who's gonna win, whether it was 2016, when Shawnee Miller dived on the line. 2017, I don't think neither of them won that year. Yeah, but obviously we're talking, she's running 400 meters thinking, one day I want to be there. One day I want to be challenging these girls for medals, for golds. She's running faster. She's running faster than times that were winning golds back in the 2010s. Not like I'm talking about like the 2000s or the 90s, the 2010s recently, the one that just gone. Yeah, she's running a faster time than times that were winning Olympic and world golds from athletes that are considered some of the greatest of all time, and yet is finishing fifth in the final. That just shows how unreal the talent depth is of this final, which is why I think greatest race ever. Genuinely, because how can you be running a time that would have won gold 3 Olympics ago? And the commentators are saying it looks like there's 2 different races going on. How does that even make sense? How? How is 49.9 coming last? How's everyone running sub 50? In the same race, in one race. This is insane. I don't think I've ever seen anything like it. I remember last year there was a debate. Everyone was trying to say that the 2024 100 meters men's was the best 100 meters race ever, or the fastest ever, or the greatest ever. And I disagreed with that. I personally disagreed. It was the closest ever. It was a very exciting watch. But from what I've seen in the 2010s, some of those races, I don't know if we're ever going to get better than that in the 100 meters. And Usain Bolt came on Justin Gatlin's podcast and made that point. Like, you really think that the 2024, I hear it, they had the depth, slowest time was 9:91, oblique Seville pulled up, which means that it was like a mad close race, deep race. But you actually think that is better than the 2012 Olympic final, in which you had Bolt going 9:63, I believe. Blake behind him, Gatlin behind him, Gay behind him. I think Asafa Powell pulled up, but he was there. Richard Thompson, an Olympic silver medalist from Beijing. I think he was silver. He was there. The quality and the speed that we had in that field, you genuinely think that the 2024 one was better just because the bottom half ran faster, because there was depth. Well, both those arguments are fair and true. What I want to say to you is this race that we just saw here, it had both. It had the historic times at the top and the depth from the bottom. It was like, imagine, so to put that into context, it's like having the men's 100 from 2012 combined with the men's 100 from 2024. Like, imagine that. You see how 9:79 was the winning time last year and 9:91 was the last place time? When Usain Bolt ran 9:63, second fastest time ever, just like Sydney McLaughlin just ran, what's the difference? 9:79 to 9:91, that's 0.12? Sorry if my maths is wrong. So that would be like when Usain Bolt ran 9:63, the last place running 9:75. which is faster than what actually won the Olympics last year. Obviously, you have to do a bit of like extrapolation or whatever because it's 100 meters, not 400 meters. But that's the level that we're talking about that we just saw today in the Women's World Championship final, 400 meters. And yeah, just so entertaining. I love this sport, man. This is unreal. And that world record is going. It's going. I thought it was going to be today. It wasn't today. It will happen very soon, though. And obviously, Sydney's going to continue. I've made an extensive video about what this shift to 400 means for Sydney's career. But Sydney's going to continue in this event to LA 2028. And all we're going to assume is that she's going to get faster, may break a world record or world records before then. Who knows? I don't like just focusing on what Sydney's going to do next. I feel like I've been guilty of this. A lot of people like, what can she do? What can she do? What can she do? We need to appreciate what she is doing. This is, and I'm going to have conversations about this after the champs. This is one of the greatest athletes ever. In any sport, any gender, any sport, any event, full stop. There's not really more to say. Like, there's just nothing you can say about her greatness, really. And I feel like because of that, we're always thinking of what is next, what is next, what can she do, what will she do, what will she win, what records will she break. And maybe I'm being a bit of a hypocrite here, but we actually just need to be like, you know, athletes like this don't really come around. And the fact that we have someone like that in our sport doing that with so much humility, so much consistency, like, we're blessed. We're blessed to be in an era where we're able to watch a race like that. Like, we really need to appreciate it now because it's not going to be here forever. We've seen it with past athletes. We're seeing it now. Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce is on her way out. She's going to have her last race in the 4x1 relay. And you just need to, like, one thing I'm grateful for is that I appreciated Shelly-Ann's career, literally from Beijing 2008 to now. And that's how I was able to make the video I made about her last year. Because sometimes you have to, rather than just focusing on what's next, you have to just appreciate what is happening now. So let's just do that. Okay, cool, thank you. So now, what's next for Sydney, yeah? I believe she's going to obviously continue along the track that she's on, because she only really stopped doing 4 hurdles like this year, meaning that her whole training wasn't dedicated to 400 the whole time. Like, she was doing 400 and 4 hurdles and just ran the second fastest time ever. Next year's obviously a dead year, but the year after, that's 2 years of full dedication potentially to the 400 if she wants to continue doing that and doesn't want to return to the hurdles. And yeah, world record might go. Obviously, it's not something that she's now just going to be running the world record every day, because it took such amazing conditions, not in terms of like the weather, but in terms of those 3 in a championship setting. It took that for them to run that fast. You're not going to get that every day on the circuit, but at some point that world record can go, and I believe it will be her that will do it, and then maybe repeat in 2027 as the world champion. And as I spoke about in my Sydney McLaughlin just entered the GOAT conversation video, 2028 Olympics, if she's able to win that 400 gold, what's that? That'll be 3 Olympics in a row with gold, and that's across 2 different events. That will put her in dangerous conversations, man. Dangerous conversations. And by the looks of things, if you listen to like what she says in interviews and stuff like that, once that's checked off, if that's checked off, obviously by God's grace, health, good health, all of that, she might even try a short sprint. She could try a 1 hurdles or a 200, and then maybe try win that in 2032 and retire. That's just one of the greatest careers ever in any sport. So really excited to see all of that. And Paulino, man, that was unreal. That was unreal. I'd love to see how this unfolds over the coming years. It's just such a shame that we don't have a championship next year. We've been blessed. I'm going to make a full video about this, but we've been blessed these last few years. 2021, 2, 3, 4, 5 straight championships, and now all that momentum. I mean, I know there's the World Athletics Ultimate Championship, there's the Enhanced Games, but outside of that, like, there's not any of the traditional championships that has built like so much hype for years. So we'll see how it unfolds, but massive shout out to everyone that ran that final, man. Follow me Instagram, TikTok, and subscribe to Okra TV for more of this. Like, comment, just give me all your thoughts, everything. Thanks for watching Okra TV. It's been real.